Did Rahab sin when she lied about the spies? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Joshua on Walking Through the Bible. If you have a Bible with you, turn to Joshua chapter 2. We're going to be reading from verses 1 to 7. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So Joshua chapter 2, beginning at verse 1. Now Joshua the son of Nun sent out 2 men from Acacia Grove to spy secretly, saying, "Go view the land, especially Jericho." So they went and came to the house of a harlot named Rahab and lodged there. And it was told the king of Jericho, saying, "Behold, men have come here tonight from the children of Israel to search out the country." So the king of Jericho sent to Rahab, saying, "Bring out the men who have come to you, who have entered your house, for they have come to search out all the country." Then the woman took the 2 men and hid them. So she said, "Yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they came from. And it happened, as the gate was being shut, when it was dark, the men went out. Where the men went, I do not know. Pursue them quickly, for you may overtake them." But she had brought them up to the roof and hidden them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order on the roof. Then the men pursued them by the road of the Jordan to the fords. And as soon as those who pursued them had gone out, they shut the gate. On the screen now is a 3-dimensional map of the land of Canaan and the plains of Moab. Circled in red is the plains of Moab, where Israel has been situated since the end of the book of Numbers. You can see mountains to their east, which includes Mount Nebo, where Moses died. Immediately to their west is the Jordan River, and circled in blue is the city of Jericho. This Jericho is located in a similar place to the city of Jericho that existed in the days of Jesus, though it had expanded in size by that point. It is important to note for later the mountains to the southwest of Jericho. We have discussed these mountains before when we talked about the parable of the Good Samaritan in Luke 10, and they will become important later on. With Israel in the plains of Moab across from Jericho, Joshua decided to send 2 spies in order to gain some military intelligence about the city. These spies weren't going to be sent to spy out all the land like before, just the paths west of the Jordan to Jericho, as well as the city itself. So these spies went, and when they came to the house of a harlot named Rahab and lodged there. Now some ask the question, why did the spies decide to lodge with a harlot? Wouldn't that be bad for their reputation? Well, if their intentions were to commit harlotry, then yes. But we don't read of that being their intentions at all. First of all, Rahab's house was actually on the walls of the city, making it easy to escape should they need to. Second, Rahab, though a harlot, was also hospitable, and it is probable that the spies felt that she wouldn't turn them over to the enemy, nor would they draw undue attention to themselves than had they stayed elsewhere. Whatever the case, as Jesus taught, it was not sinful to eat or even lodge at a harlot's house, so long as one wasn't engaged in the sin of harlotry, which these men weren't. But even though these men were trying to be discreet, word got out to the king of Jericho that Israel had sent spies into Jericho, and word also got out where these spies were. They were staying with Rahab, for the king sent men to Rahab's house to arrest these men. Now what happened next has caused a lot of debate. For Rahab hid the 2 spies on her roof among the flax, but told the men of the king that although the men had come to her, she didn't know where they were, nor did she know where they went, for it happened that as the gate was being shut the previous night, the men went out. Therefore, the king's men should pursue them quickly, so that they may overtake the Israelite spies. What Rahab told the king's men was almost a complete lie. The only truthful thing she said was the men came to her. She knew who the men were, as we'll discuss shortly. She knew where the men were, for they hadn't fled the city. They were on her roof, hiding among the flax. The controversy comes not from the lie itself per se, but from how the New Testament, in the book of Hebrews and the book of James, describe Rahab as a woman of faith in connection with this story. In fact, it is this Rahab who is found in Matthew 1 in the genealogies of Jesus. So does this story teach us that lying in certain circumstances, especially if it is to save lives, is acceptable to God? No. For Revelation 21 verse 8 says, all liars, meaning people who haven't had their sins, including lies, forgiven by God through Christ, will have their part in the lake of fire, which is the second death. Lying for whatever reason is sin. But if you look closely at the New Testament passages that commend Rahab's faith, they don't commend the lie, but the fact that she sent the spies out another way, thus sparing their lives. Rahab could have told the spies to hide on their own. Thus, if she told the king's men that she didn't know where they were, she would be telling the truth. She didn't need to lie. She did, which is what the Bible records, but the Bible doesn't commend lying any more than it commends Rahab's current profession, a harlot. The king's men believe Rahab and go out of Jericho to chase these men on the road towards the Jordan. After the men left, the doors of the cities were closed for the evening, meaning the spies were out of immediate danger inside the city. But they couldn't remain any longer, for the king's men would be back, and the spies would eventually be found, if they stayed. They would thus have to leave early in the morning, but would sleep first. Before these men would sleep, though, Rahab had a request of the spies. What was that request, and what would the spies' answer be? We'll find out, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Joshua chapter 2, verses 8 to 24, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.